You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com.
Welcome to Central Indiana's favorite podcast, Boss Hog of Liberty. This is episode number 182. I'm Jeremiah Morrell. On my left, Dakota Davis. Over on the producer's stand, it's not Zach Burcham. It's Chris Guffey back in the room.
Hello.
That's right. Our normal producer.
We got a guest.
That's right. Today's episode features Mr. Brad Brewer. Brad is an aspiring political commentator, is what I'm going to call you. In about 10 years, we're going to see you on Fox News.
Could be.
Or maybe you'll just be stuck on InfoWars. I don't know. Doing those
anywhere.
Yeah, you could be doing those interviews on the street where it's like, Democrats don't know poop from applesauce.
Man on the street.
I've heard Fox News is crap now. Them and the Associated Press are fake news.
We're going to be talking to Brad about, all things election. We're going to be talking about GOP winners in the State House. We're going to be talking about Don Rainwater and his historic third-party run for Indiana governor. Straight ticket voting, which is another hurdle that we still have to cross. Some voting horrors as stories as well. And then we're finally going to get into the presidential election. What has been going on? We still don't have a president-elect in the United States, and it is November 5th. Maybe by the time you hear this, it'll be called We Have the News Going On, just in case there's something breaking. But make sure you stick around until the very end to find out.
This show is about our lives in rural Indiana. We're here to push your boundaries and make you think as individuals. Sometimes we'll provoke you. Other times we'll make you laugh. Hopefully, you will always learn something new. I guarantee this is going to be a learn something new episode. We got all kinds of stuff coming. A lot of fun. I did a lot of research, got stuff ready, and the Dakota said, the hell with this. I'm not making any show notes. I'm like, what? So I made my own. So we have off the books, second set. This is like the second.
You had a lot of stuff you wanted to talk about.
Yes.
That's what I was going to say in the Patreon side that we just got done doing was you have a lot of things that you wanted to talk about. I literally was just going to have Brad come on and we were just
monologue.
You were just going to plug in Brad.
I was going to go I was going to say, let's find every rabbit hole that we can and dive head
My
first.
wife told me I had to somewhat gather my thoughts, or I could literally go on she literally said a 30-minute Alex Jones monologue rant. And I was like, well.
See, that's what I knew.
She knows that.
I've been watching your Facebook page, and I was like, this guy has stuff that he needs to get off his chest.
So, she knows me is the thing. Yeah.
So for folks that are listening now, Brad was with us once before, episode 130. If you go back, you can listen to his first appearance with us.
52 weeks. Has it been exactly a year?
Roughly a year.
Wow.
And then how do people follow you now? So if folks want to get familiar with you as they're looking.
If they want to follow me on social media, I mean, at Real Brad Brewer on basically every platform, and they can find my pages there. So Twitter, I'm the most active politically on
fake
there.
Brad Brewers all over the place.
There are.
But
Listen,
you are the real Brad Brewer.
You have to make sure everyone knows you're the real one today. Okay. Real Brad Brewer on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. That's where I do political stuff. I don't do that everywhere. I'm not saying I'm not political everywhere, but I'm more careful, to keep things separate, if that makes sense. So.
All right. Before we get too far into it, we have the people on Patreon to thank. Patreon.com/Boss Hog of Liberty. That is where you can go to support the show every month. That is what keeps the show from being ad free. I was listening just today to a different show. I was listening to Two Bears in One Cave with Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer, and it's another one of those things. Like I said with the Ben Shapiro show, is that every 10 to 15 minutes, they stop and do a pre-recorded advertisement. And it just drives me insane. Because if you're listening to it while you're driving, then, it makes it difficult to find that skip button on Spotify to fast forward 30 seconds. So that is just irritating, which actually they're not even on Spotify anymore. So you have to listen to it on YouTube. Anyway. Patreon.com/Boss Hog of Liberty. That's where you can go to make this show ad-free. Make sure it continues to be ad-free. And if you sign up at $50 or more a month, then you get a shout-out at the front of each and every episode. Those folks are Christy Avery, Jonathan Phillips, Anthony Meyer, and then our good friend, Chris Lamb. And then
Absolutely.
we also have T-Chip stores, tchip.com/BHOL1, 2, 3, or 4. 1 through 3 are all T-shirts or long sleeve shirts or sweatshirts. You can decide what design it goes on. And then tchip.com/BHOL4 is masks. We have a beautiful selection of masks. They're the most beautiful masks that you've ever seen. Mason Rodding House has one.
Yep, my parents have one. Got them all over the place. They have sold.
We also have mugs. We have mugs again. I know that was
We do,
a
and I've
point of
asked for
contention.
tumblers, but you're forcing those to go through the Dainty Daisy instead.
Listen, that's my wife's business. If you want a Boss Hog of Liberty tumbler, then you reach out to her, or you can reach out to me, and I will be your middleman.
You'll connect.
Wonderful quality too, I will say. Wonderful quality.
Oh, look at that.
Hey, I got myself up here on the video. It won't play on the computer, but it's playing on here now. So I don't know.
Last
know
week
what's
we
going on.
had a libertarian that was running for office. We had a Democrat that was running for office, and we talked a lot about Joe Biden. We talked a little bit about Joe Jorgensen. It's only appropriate that we brought in Brad this week to help balance things back out.
Balancing it out. Yep.
So let's work through some of the local races first. Some people that, as our listeners have been going along, they've been following along, seeing all these races we've covered. In Henry County, we did a series on the county council, and the council reelected all 3 of the incumbent Republicans. So Harold Griffin, Betsy Mills, and Clay Morgan, all are back again. They're going to be up for another 4 years. Harold did announce this week that it will be his last term on the county council, so he'll be finishing up. You guys remember from the spring, Bobby Plummer was on in the county commissioner's race. So Bobby was elected and is going to continue on.
I must say she was elected in an astounding fashion.
She won. I don't have the number in front of me.
68%.
Yeah, it was very significant.
Pretty strong. Yeah.
Jennifer Blackford and Jackie Hadsel won the Newcastle School Board race.
Jackie was on the show.
Jackie was on the show.
8 people separated.
Yep, she was 8 votes ahead of incumbent Kim Williamson, who will no longer be on the school board. Chris Lamb, our friend Chris Lamb, and Forrest Plank both were on the short end of the stick there, but very possible that we see them running for office again in the future. And then Stacey Guffey, you guys remember Stacey as well. He came on. He will be the new coroner. That's not a surprise. He was unopposed in the fall.
What you mean to say is we're getting a coroner now.
Yeah. We finally have one again, ladies and gentlemen.
We'll be glad to have him. And then in the another race I wanted to mention real quick, another Boss Hog alum that did lose, State Representative Melanie Wright from Delaware County. She was on the show 2 years ago and served on the Ag Committee. She was a Democrat
From up in the
from
Dillville.
Yorktown area.
Yorktown.
Yorktown, Dillville represented that part of the world. But she did lose her race in a close one. That was on TV a lot. It was a very expensive race. But Melanie's time in the State House is going to come to an end.
Daleville's on my mind for a different reason.
It should be.
New state representative up there now, Christopher.
Yeah, I'm going to have, I have the wonderful privilege that my fiance and I signed our closing documents for our house
We didn't have to get personal with it. That was just,
on Wednesday. So
This is goodbye.
this is goodbye. This is my farewell tour.
You're going to make people nervous.
I'm going to be moving all my stuff out of Henry County. And it's all because
the news.
your cot and folding chair.
Your fork
I'm moving it all.
and
I'm moving it all.
and my fake plant.
The whole reason is because they raised my taxes to build a jail. Thank you, County Council. Betsy Mills, Chad Malicote, Clay Morgan.
Betsy Mills did not vote for it.
She did not. She did not.
Betsy wasn't on the council
That's
yet,
true.
and Clay voted no.
Oh, but he wanted to vote.
Why are you fake news right now? Calling
Why do
people
you-
out.
I'm
Why
like
do you
the
need
real
to be
media.
fact checked on this show?
we were going to have you fact check Brad.
I can't.
Listen,
I can't.
You've lost
Now
all
we need-
credibility.
Now we need
yes.
Brad to fact check you.
I gotta run. I gotta run out of this county.
Got to be free.
All right,
Gotta be free.
more election results here real quick so we can get through. Our friend Don Rainwater, Don's been on the show before, 14.5% in the governor's race in Indiana. He finished second in Henry County, more than 20% of the vote, beating Woody Myers in Henry County. I've not seen precinct by precinct totals to see if he won any precincts in Henry County or anywhere else, but I think in over 30 counties in the state of Indiana, he was second place.
34.
That's awesome.
So he has announced today that he intends to seek the Libertarian nomination again in 2024, as does his running mate, William Henry. So that ticket is back again in 4 years. They received over 400,000 votes, 14.5% of the vote statewide. In the next big election for Indiana Libertarians, Secretary of State in 2 years, if they get that number again, they're going to be the LP is going to be a major party with primaries. Sure. You just have to clear 10%. So huge time. Almost 500,000 people hold a libertarian ballot in Indiana. Voted for a libertarian.
Pretty cool.
That's massive for third parties.
Another thing that we wanted to cover is, I don't know if you guys all remember, but a couple of years ago after the 2018 election, whenever we had a horrible issue with straight ticket voting in that election. That was due to the newer voting machines that gives you an error. We still have those machines in Henry County, and they didn't fix the error. But I did see a lot of poll workers that were explaining to people whenever they took them to the ballot box that, hey, if you don't want to vote straight ticket, then you can skip it.
My poll worker said, you can still vote straight ticket. They said, this is how you vote straight ticket, but you will need to go in and mark your school board and the others. So they encouraged the straight ticket voting.
Mine did not.
Yeah, my poll worker encouraged straight ticket voting, but then said, make sure you pick up the school board and the other things that are in there.
Where did you vote? We need to dox that person.
Whittier Lane Baptist Church.
What a shame.
Vote Center 5.
I was going to say, the Justice Center, they were just like Dakota's. They were like, oh, nope, just skip past that. I was like, thank you. I've done this once or twice. I understand, but I appreciate you explaining it to other people.
Yeah. I mean, I'm over in just over in Wayne County, and they at the New Testament church, and they didn't mention it either way. So they didn't tell me that's what I should be doing.
I was kind of bragging on myself. I think that my the article that we put in the paper as the Libertarian Party made a difference.
Hey,
that it did make a difference with Tom Saunders.
Sure,
you know that he submitted a bill in the last legislative session to try to get rid of straight ticket voting.
Straight ticket voting has been something we've talked about on the show for the existence of it. In 2016, for the last presidential race, 9 states still had straight ticket voting. As of this presidential race, 2020, 5 states. Indiana,
I think
plus
that'll be
4.
less. I think that'll be less by 2024.
So it's very possible that Indiana removes it. Listen, it's a ground game having conversations with your legislators.
Sure.
It's a conversation I plan on having with a number of people, and we'll see where it goes. But it has to go.
We still had approximately 40% of all voters in Henry County still voted straight party.
Yep, they still took the straight ticket, and in spite of that, Rainwater got 400,000 votes and changed statewide in over 20%, and beat the Democrat Woody Myers. Woody Myers had over 1,000 straight ticket votes on the Democrat side, and Rainwater still beat that.
Yep.
Pretty
Phenomenal.
impressive.
He won by 200
That's
votes.
impressive.
Now, the same voting equipment that we have in Henry County is now used in Madison County next door. The Madison County Clerk, the Madison County Commissioners, and the Madison County Election Board are having the like a Mexican standoff fight. If you remember the episode of The Office where they have guns pointed at each other, that's what's happening. That's what's happening in Madison County right now. They traded in 400 functional election machines, and they got 150 back, just like we have.
Wow.
And they thought, hey, we're going to get some more ordered. And then they could never get them authorized to order them. And they thought, hey, we're going to have vote centers. And then they never did have the vote centers. So I was hearing reports on Election Day out of Madison County all day long of, hey, it's taking me 2 hours, 3 hours to vote. By the end of the day, folks were dropping out of line, giving up, coming back. 6 hours. Wow. There were people that got in line at 6 o'clock that finished voting at 12:15 in the morning.
Yeah, and
unbelievable.
The governor and the state of Indiana had already been called by the Associated Press.
Yeah, so you're standing in line,
watching your state getting
watching
called.
all the races you care about, except for the Sparks Hill Tucker race for Congress. There was a
sure.
I mean, otherwise, if you're the guy that just goes and says, "I'm going to vote for president, do my duty," are you going to stand in line for 5 hours?
No.
It's a disaster. So
crazy.
Madison County was awful.
I wouldn't have stood in line for 2.
Awful. It's unreal. So, and then apparently it's taken them 3 days to get results in Wayne County. I still don't know if Wayne County has the results published yet.
Chris Bilbrey is in the chat, and he's a Patreon member. That is a perk on the Patreon side. If you sign up for patreon.com, then we promise to answer your questions in the live stream as long as it is reasonable. Christopher is saying, what are your thoughts on the fact that only 41 more people voted this election in 2020 than in 2016, even with all the early voting and absentee voting?
I don't know. I feel like the percentage was up a touch. I think we were up to 67%. I don't know if Henry County's population has gone up or down. We may have lost people since that time.
Idea.
So I'd have to watch that. We also have, I think 1,000 people in our county population are in the jail and not allowed to vote that are in the geo prison. So it's difficult. You have to look at our number of folks in the in the census versus who's registered to vote and how we've done.
I would say
I do have a little bit at the end of the show. We're going to talk about some population shifts.
I would say that it's we were blown away. We talked a lot about the voter turnout in 2016 on our post-election show, and we were all blown away by the response.
In 2016 and 2018, we have had some very strong voter turnout here, and I think the local wind issue has been a big deal as well. With that's driven a lot of folks to the polls. So we've kind of beat expectations around the state.
And Chris is saying that the population's gone down.
Yeah. And so you've got more people voting and a smaller population. So as a percentage, that's why our turnout actually went up a little bit. The percentage jumped up to 67%.
Yeah.
So Madison County's got some issues ahead of it. I know I have a coworker that lives in Anderson who's like, I saw the line, said the hell with it, didn't go. So that's one of the reasons why the vote turnout wasn't as high as it was in some other places, because of the damn big lines.
Yeah, I spoke to a man that lived in Noblesville. Said he was in line. He was an older gentleman, so I guess he was able to. I don't mean to sound that bad, but he was able to wait. He didn't have to be anywhere. So
Right.
Said it took him over 3 hours to get out of line by the time he got done.
I was going to say Paige was at right at 2 hours, and she votes in Madison County. And she said that if it was going to be a 3-4 hour wait, she would just walked away. And she went to the poll to vote against one person.
Yeah.
She went to vote.
She was motivated in a school board race.
Yes, she was to vote against someone.
The Madison County model does not yet have vote centers. So if you live in a certain area, you have to go to a certain polling place.
I got you.
In Henry County, we had a dozen different locations. So you could show up and you could go vote in Middletown. You could vote in Knightstown.
I live in
you could go to
and I
you could
voted
go wherever.
in Louisville.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it sounds like the lowest lines were in off Dublin Pike, New Lisbon. That was the place that a lot of folks went to if they were trying to get through really quick.
I went there. I went to the gathering in Louisville, and I was out of my truck and was back in my truck in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
When we went to there at the New Testament Church in Wayne County, we came in. We went at probably 11 o'clock, and literally there was probably four booths open. Like we didn't even wait at all. I walked straight up, voted, walked out. We were probably 6 minutes in there, which is pretty surprising. I was expecting to wait.
I was a motivated voter. I got up at 5:15. I met my mother-in-law. Mason picked me up. His buddy was in the truck with him, and Sarah and I, we all rode over. The 5 of us voted as a family. Got in line at 5:50, and we were out the door at 6:30.
I was standing outside Mount Summit Church working for Betsy Mills at 5:30. Left at 7:30 and seen a lot of people voting.
Yeah, I know they had over 1,000 people, I think, that voted at the Mount Summit Church.
Yeah, it was constantly busy. It was great though. Cold, very cold.
All right, so that's the local wrap up. What we've seen locally. The big ticket item that's not decided yet is president. I think we all know how this is going to go. Watching the news right now, as of this recording, it is 7:44 on Thursday evening. The electoral math, as it appears right now, North Carolina is probably going to go to Trump. He leads by 76,000 votes. Pennsylvania, there's a lot of talk that it may fall to Biden, but right now Trump's ahead by 64,000. Georgia is getting incredibly close. It's a 3,400 vote advantage in Georgia. And Arizona is the one that has been cracking people up for 2 days. The Associated Press and Fox News called Arizona for Vice President Biden. This morning when I woke up, it was about a 90,000 vote lead, and now it's about 68,000 or
right
so.
Around 60, yes, in the upper 60s.
So it's dropped by a third, the deficit has today. Many of the Trump folks are upset that Arizona had been called when they're still
only
half
Fox
million
News called it. CNN hasn't called it. MSNBC hasn't called it, I don't believe.
The Associated Press has.
Right, but as of this afternoon, even CNN and MSNBC had not called it, I don't believe. I know CNN did, and I don't know I hadn't checked MSNBC this afternoon, but
How do you go through life looking at NBC News as being the reputable source and Fox News as being the ones that are fake news?
Well, I watched. I'll admit something. I actually watched probably, if I had to do a breakdown of election night, probably 20% CNN. Actually, that would surprise some people. I tweeted that out and I said, "Am I wrong for doing that?" Probably, and actually, a lot of people were agreeing with me. Surprisingly, they were pretty fair. It was odd that they called. I mean, the race was much tighter in other states that they didn't call, or not nearly as close. Excuse me. And they called other states, or called Arizona a lot earlier, even though it was a lot tighter than other states. Where they, so I don't know. It was odd that they called it so early. Granted, there were some people that said that that Fox News would call states earlier than other places. If it was for Biden. That was just, something that was floating around conservative circles, because there is a thought that Fox News is, there's a few good voices there, but generally run by people that are not on the conservative side of things.
The thought is that Fox News has had for a generation, the thought process is, Fox News is so biased to the right.
Right.
And now they're trying hard to look more middle of the road, but they're also kind of they're also swinging a little bit more left in some areas, so that they can try to keep some of their ratings.
Well, but here's the thing, though, is they had the best ratings in news.
I'm told Newsmax is the place to go now. You go Newsmax. That's
Newsmax is
or Cheddar, maybe,
decent. I don't
guess,
know.
RT,
OAN, One American
Today,
News, or something like that. Yeah. I mean,
I just
Fox News
subscribed to InfoWars.
There you go, perfect. So then you don't have to worry about it. But Fox News had the best ratings. So they say that, but it wasn't. It was working for them, whatever they were doing, whether you agree with them or not. They were generally the best ratings out there. So it is surprising, but you're right. They have definitely shifted, and I imagine they're going to continue to do so.
So Chris Bangle and the Weird Libertarians, the mothership for our network, he's been preaching and has been covering this and anticipating the number of states and
the coming civil war,
the possible coming civil war, the foaming at the mouth that's happening over counting slowly or diligently counting versus, oh my God, somebody's stealing the election.
Right.
Right now, there's 5 states that are potentially not called. Trump's path forward right now looks like, if I don't see Nevada coming his way,
Pennsylvania, Arizona,
the numbers going the wrong way. So Trump needs to win North Carolina. He needs to hang on to Georgia, which is a 3,000 vote difference now. And then Arizona's going to have to come back, and he needs to hold on to Pennsylvania. If he does that, he's good.
Right.
If he loses Arizona, basically, if
he loses any of those 4 states, it doesn't matter.
If the folks that are leading right now, as of this time, the red states that are red as of the count at this moment, the blue states that are blue at this moment, Biden wins 270 to 268.
Correct. Yes.
And it comes down to, we would have had a tie if Omaha, Nebraska's congressional district had gone Trump instead of Biden.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
how much money do you think the Republicans will spend in Omaha next time?
More than they did this year. I can guarantee you that. I mean, it's going to be, the money in the Las Vegas, Nevada area is going to be unreal after this year. I mean, no one really saw it coming down to, Nevada, Arizona. I mean, I wouldn't have if you'd asked me a week ago.
So, I mean, if it was going to come down to Arizona, do you think he would have spent the last 3.5 years pissing all over the grave of John McCain?
Maybe.
The beloved son.
Yeah. I mean,
Trump would have, because he doesn't really care.
Well, I don't know. And here's the thing, though, I'm maybe in the minority here, but I still don't know that he's going to lose Arizona. I think when the votes that are there, he's been winning at a higher clip in the last 500,000 to 600,000 that are left, which is closer to 500,000 now, based on what I saw earlier. That could have changed, but he needed to win about 56% of the votes outstanding, and most of them were in Maricopa County, which is generally a stronger Republican county.
That's Sheriff Joe territory, right?
Correct.
This is the guy that would dress up prison inmates in yellow and
pink and purple.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it should be hypothetically a pretty big boost for Trump. The 75,000 came in as kind of they viewed that as kind of a glimpse into what the other's going to do. And it came in that he was actually pacing closer to 60% on those votes, dropped 13,000 off of the vote total. I think it was that moment. Actually, we were talking about that on CNN last night, and it was MSNBC, excuse me, when Rachel Maddow gasped, "Oh dear God!" When they saw that he had 59%, I think come in. And I don't think they've actually had any more come in since then. But and the other portion that is interesting about Arizona is what is left is actually all election day votes. They've actually processed per the election board. I don't have that number, but
some states process the absentee and mail-in ballots first,
and some did first,
and some did last.
And so Arizona is the other way, whereas places like Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin all did mail-in votes at the end. Arizona did it first, and so that is something to think about.
Trump was saying they needed to stop counting today. Do you want them to stop counting in Arizona?
Wait, what? There is clarification there. The point, that's not exactly a full statement of what's going on.
I read the tweet.
It is a tweet.
And then he retweeted his own tweet. So he really meant it.
True. But what the statements that are coming out from the campaign is that they are, especially in Pennsylvania around Philadelphia, they are requesting, and this is not an outrageous request, to have their guys in there to be able, the GOP poll watchers to be able to see the votes being counted. Today, they actually received a court order to allow them to be in there, but then the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, who has already had some issues in the last few weeks, came back and backed off that decision and said, no, that we're not going to actually let you in there because instead of letting them in, the poll watchers actually shut down counting. They said they were going to have administrative day once
they were going on strike.
Basically, it was an administrative work to be done, but that means they were going to stop and go to the Supreme Court, and then the Supreme Court did bail them out. Not the U.S. Supreme Court, but the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. But there's already issues there. I mean, I think that Pennsylvania is going to get sent. I think Pennsylvania, that whole situation there is going to be litigated for a while because they made changes from the Supreme Court made the decision outside of legislation from the legislature in Pennsylvania, saying that not only would they accept correctly dated ballots for up to 3 days after election day, but also if there was a smudge and it was unrecognizable what the postmark was, they would still allow those, even if they didn't know. They would just get the benefit of the doubt that those ballots.
How many of those are there going to be, though?
The problem is it opens itself up to how many. The thing that some people will say is how many are necessary. Is the question. If you're allowing someone to say all that has to be done is there's a smudge on a post date, now all of a sudden that vote counts because we're going to accept it as marked correctly, that is an issue.
And you got people like Darren Jacobs that are working the polls, and they might just lick their thumb and smudge it.
See,
you don't know. You don't know how many of those are going to be out there. You might be arguing over 12.
You don't,
right? I mean, in 2016 they recounted Wisconsin and it moved the number 200.
Sure.
So if this counting stops and Trump's ahead by 25,000 in Pennsylvania, you don't care anymore.
Well, the issue with the counting thing, the reason they tried to stop counting is said they don't want counting to happen if they're not going to have representation like this legally allowed for them to do.
You should always have a Republican and a Democrat poll watcher observer.
And today there were actually videos
or whatever the law in Pennsylvania says.
And there was and the court gave an injunction or basically a letter of saying, hey, you have to let them in there within 6 feet of counting. That's the rule. They had to be within 6 feet of the counting of the ballots. They were pushed, even when they were allowed access, they were pushed 25 feet plus. So at that point is when, obviously everybody now has cameras out all the time. There's videos out there of them discussing it. You see Corey Lewandowski and the lawyers for the Trump campaign that are representing them talking with the poll workers or someone with the polling station there. I don't know who they were at that point talking about. Said, yeah, we're listening to that letter. We're following it. But yet the people were still not allowed within 6 feet of the ballots. That's the stop they're wanting to have. Like, hey, if we're not going to have access, we don't want that to happen. Happened in Michigan, Detroit. They were putting pizza boxes in the windows of the area they were counting in. Putting pizza boxes, putting all the news.
Was that to keep the media from watching, or to keep the poll watchers from watching?
Now that was more for the fact that they're in a building. This is not the media did not have access to the room. Now, in many places, as you'll see video feeds from polling locations inside the rooms. I mean, you'll see people counting behind the reporters there. So that was pretty normal. I mean, that's not abnormal for that to happen in a lot of places. I don't know if there's some places that allow it, some places that don't. I don't have all of those state by state election regulations, but they were outside of the building. And then it wasn't until there were questions that were arising. It had been open that way for the entirety of the day, election day, and then even the next day. It was that evening they decided, okay, there's a lot of people looking at us now. That it just seemed odd that all of a sudden now they're going to bar the doors and put up stuff. It is odd.
It's just like the NSA used to say in the George W. Bush administration: if you have nothing to hide, then you have nothing to worry about.
Chris, you were involved.
Why keep them 25 feet away if they're not hiding it?
You were at the election center in Henry County. What did it look like? What happened?
So basically, it was really pretty simple. So there was Eldon Pitts, myself, Daryl Radford walked in.
So the media guys.
The media. I'm going to consider myself media for this, all intents and purposes. The media, we just basically sat there and they were behind a glass window and they were counting. And when they finished,
could you see them doing the count?
I could see people over to the side. I was sitting down, so I really didn't look. I wasn't too worried about it. And then after they finished, a lady walks out and she says, "I assume these are what you guys are waiting for." And she hands 4 packets to all of us, and then we just walk out and leave. So
you all had your results.
Yep. I was actually, I think I was the first one I knew before all the Republicans in town.
Wow.
They had the Zoom meeting.
Breaking news.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the one that called Betsy, let her know. The Republican Party didn't even care anymore.
That's what a Patreon member gets, that kind of service.
It's true.
Insider information right there.
Hey.
If Clay had joined Patreon, he would have known.
Yeah, he could have got a call, but he didn't.
All right. So, foaming at the mouth, mad over Pennsylvania. This is all. There's one county that you're upset at. Is it Allegheny County or wherever Philadelphia
yes,
County?
It's Philadelphia. I mean, that's where there's been the biggest blowback as far as access,
because that's where the people live.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where the majority of it's not all the vote. Obviously, there's a lot of more red counties that obviously had votes outstanding as well. But the lion's share of that, what was it, 1.4 million votes still outstanding to be counted. I think the lion's share of that was around Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. At least on election, I think the morning after election day, that's where most of them were still to be counted. So it was more of an access issue, and that has been seen in multiple states. And it's not necessarily to people that are just obviously you and me can't drive over to Philadelphia and just walk up in the polling location or the count location and start watching people. That's obviously not realistic, but it was legal representatives from the campaigns that were being barred from these scenarios. And Philadelphia had that exact same happen, and it had been reported in multiple news outlets on election day as well, that they were actually kicked out of locations. In addition to multiple vote counters wearing literally, and you can see there's video of them wearing Biden-Harris face mask while they're counting. That stuff just isn't in polling locations. It isn't
that was
allowed.
going on in Florida too.
Right, it's just not allowed. That stuff isn't allowable. Now, wearing a mask, I'm not saying that changes any votes, but there are certain things.
Candidate propaganda.
Correct. I mean, I couldn't. That's illegal to do. But the biggest thing is the fact that the access. I mean, there's multiple times that happened already in Philadelphia on election day during the votes actually being cast. That people, unfortunately, Republican representatives were removed and told that they don't care about there's a video. You can watch the video on Twitter. It's all over the place. You just have to look for that. But people being told, hey, we don't care what it says. We're not letting you in here. And they were using the phrase intimidating our officials, our workers. And but there was no necessarily, at least not in what we know about, ever giving any reason why that was intimidation other than the fact that they were there watching, which is that's their job. So what about this conversation? You've seen an awful lot on social media the last day or two about 105%, 110% voter turnout in places. Yeah, there was a lot of that went around. That actually is, I can't speak for every state. I've only looked at some. I know me and Dakota
Wisconsin was the big one.
Yeah, Dakota and I had a conversation about that, and actually early numbers were showing that. Wisconsin allows for same-day registration and voting. Everybody was looking at the October 1st or November 1st number of registered voters. Correct. They had a lot of people register same day, and so that is a difference. Now, there is a legitimate question. In some, I think it was Wisconsin. I could be, you can fact check me, Chris, if I'm wrong here, but 89% is what turnout is in some places in Wisconsin, and that's almost statistically improbable that you get almost 90% of the vote. Even 90% is unrealistic, to be honest with you. Comparingly, that you look at it this way, especially in very, very, very blue areas. First term Obama, which in very Democrat heavy areas was superstar status. They didn't reach 70%.
But people are really pissed off.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
they've been stuck at home rioting.
That's true.
Wisconsin, Kenosha was a disaster this summer.
Sure.
I mean that there's a lot of reasons, because they made mailing stuff in so damn easy.
Right.
Ballot shows up at your house, no postage required. You sign it, send it back. The question I would ask is, are there votes in president only, and they dropped off on everything down ballot? So these are ballots that only say president,
there is a higher propensity, and you can see it. And there's a reason why in states that apparently Joe Biden is winning, that Republicans are picking up House seats in districts that it's happening. In Michigan, I just looking at an article earlier, I'll see if I can pull that up. In one county, in the entirety of the county, I think it was 2 votes came in for the Republican representative. But it voted the opposite. There was plenty of votes for president, but 2 votes only came in for the Republican House. That's just statistically unrealistic. I mean, you're not going to look at almost 100% vote count for anybody at any point.
So I would question if that's certified yet or not, because in Henry County we'll be able to look at all 41 of our precincts here,
right?
Page through.
There were about 2,000 voters in Henry County,
right,
that only voted for president.
That seems odd to me.
It seems odd to me too, but that was.
that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it is odd to me.
I think it was 2,000. I don't know, Chris. You can look that up.
Is it in Antrim County, Wisconsin? Excuse me, Michigan. I apologize. Let me pull up that. Pull the number here if I can.
Jeremiah's got the sheet. I might be wrong. Maybe it was 200, and I'm adding a 0. I don't know. I just remember it was significantly more.
You have to do the math.
I'll do the math since it was my claim.
They don't tally it. The sheets that they gave us on Tuesday, they don't tally them.
They don't. They have my write-in. I'm one of the 38 people that wrote in a candidate.
For president? Mm-hmm. You wrote in Kanye.
Kanye 2020.
So it's kind of there's a story that circulates around libertarian circles, and I don't know if you've heard this, and it is that libertarians will poll higher than what they get on election day, and that is because
I'm a talented drinker, Brad.
That was about a problem.
The beer was here. It was 80 degrees over, and then it was done.
So libertarians will poll higher than what they actually perform, and that's because people will say, yeah, I'm voting for Joe Jorgensen this time. I'm sick of the two-party system. And then they get in there, and the fear that they've been hearing from Joe Biden or Trump, they're like, I just can't, I can't take the risk of helping out the guy that I hate more, It's that two-party mentality sneaks back. The same thing happened to me. I went in there, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to write in Kanye because, screw the whole system. Right. It's like I want to see man of God in the Oval Office.
Listen, you got to do what your heart feels sometimes, man.
And it was kind of just going to be a funny thing for me. And then I got in there and I was like, I can't do it.
Can't do it.
I got to vote. Your
heart,
party,
your conscience. There you go. Yeah. Well, here's that number. It was in Antrim County. That there was 7,700 votes for Joe Biden, 3,000 more than Trump got. So he got 4,700. But in that same county, the Republican representative only got 2 votes in the county. 2 entire votes.
That is insane.
It's a statistical improbability.
I would want to see that when it's certified.
Was certified. Oh, sure. But and the funny is the guy that brought it up, the representative, Jack Bergman, he said, I know I have 6 votes in my family. like in this house, I have 6 votes. Well, you think
maybe he doesn't.
Maybe he doesn't. Yeah.
But did he accidentally unfriend his wife on Facebook?
Maybe he did. But yeah, so those are odd things. There is mention, and I don't, like I say, that at one point, and I saw where the number changed. I'm sure that it may not be as straightforward as that when they're doing these vote count dumps in, they'll get an X amount of votes counted. They'll bring them in. You'll see the number change.
They found 130,000 Biden votes and nobody else.
It was 138,000. It did change 138,000 with 0 of those going to Trump. Now, I'm sure there is some statistical reason why that would happen at once, but those are oddities that people are going to see and say, what's going on with that?
So these are not official results on the state.
That's correct. That's correct.
That's the media reporting, because Wayne County.
But that was off the state website. That changed. They were screenshotting the change on that.
Former reporter for I got to come up with her name here. Rachel Mazzilio, who used to work for the Palladium Item. She was actually the guy, the lady that was with Rex Bell when he had a stroke. She was the AP reporter for Wayne County. So she was out at Wayne County at their headquarters until 3 a.m, and she's literally there representing Western Wayne News and the Associated Press. So picking up whatever that report was going to be, and that's the information that the media gets back for Wayne County. So she never had anything to report back, but that's where those numbers come from.
Right.
So that's a process where somebody gets this sheet of paper. It's not digital, and then they key it in. So if they text it wrong or they send it in wrong or input it incorrectly, that could get reported to the AP wrong, and that's why the thing you see on Google or whatever other website is incorrect until somebody comes back and cleans it up.
Well,
and that'll happen when it'll be right when the state certifies it. But the media report of the votes, that's a very possible way for things to get
But the 138,000 votes did come from the state website.
Correct.
It wasn't from the
It was a state website.
And that was a keystroke issue.
And it could be. The thing that is odd that people find out is that it was in Michigan, and reporting had stopped per them till the next day. They weren't going to be reporting any more votes for the night. And then because I was still up, live, you got to stop dropping that bottle. But
my problem is that I've got narrow room here. The arms across my eye.
But it was after they had said they were going to stop counting votes. It was about 4:00 in the morning because I was still up, live posting for some odd reason.
A police SUV pulled up.
It was, there were votes, and that was actually a separate thing as far as we know.
Different thing. Okay.
We don't know that those were the same ones that were counted at that moment, but
there's so many theories.
But randomly, those numbers came in about between 4 and 5 a.m. when it shouldn't have been any votes coming in, which was an odd point. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be something they could say.
They said the next day, I'm up at 4:15.
Yeah, sure. Well, they said they were going to start counting till close to 8:30, 9 o'clock the next day. So that was an oddity. But yeah, there's video of this. Obviously, it's all anecdotal until you can get somebody to prove what's going on there. There were scenarios where people were. There's 2 videos I've seen people pulling up with.
The point is,
with vehicles pulling stuff out of vehicles and
all
putting them in.
All these things that are happening is that the Trump team can build a case.
What you don't know is that obviously a lot of things you see swirling around social media are anecdotal. You don't know the context of what what was the context of what we saw. What was the context of that 30-second video clip? That's true for not just this, but literally everything we deal with in our life. But I think what it does do, though, is there's enough anomalies and the vote is tight enough that in a lot of these states that are the ones in question. Obviously, we're not talking about California. We're not talking about New York. We're not talking really even about Florida. But in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, in Wisconsin, which I think Wisconsin, the margin's 30,000 votes or something like that, I think, in a whole state. 30,000 votes is a lot of votes. But it depending on how they come out of those. I mean, you look at Michigan today, and I saw a gentleman doing
about 21 in Wisconsin.
About 21 in Wisconsin. Okay. They were pulling up, and they have this every election cycle. Tons of people that were dead, right? Around Detroit that were voting. The weird thing is usually as those are all, mail-in votes that wind up, they come back and they verify those and they pull those out. There was multiple of them showing up as in-person votes for guys that died in 1984, 1987, 1991.
I saw one report.
How does that happen?
I don't know.
You and I, when we show up, we show a photo ID.
I know.
And you sign the poll book and you're good.
I don't know how that happens, but literally it was in Michigan. On the Michigan website, you pull up the individual. You can pull up his date of birth, date of death. You can see those things. And then it literally shows he died in 1984. He voted in person for the last several elections.
I saw one screenshot from the Michigan State website that said that the person who voted in person was born in 1823. I don't know how it's possible.
Yeah, he's 100. He's 200 years old? Well, not quite.
Yeah, almost.
So
197.
So that's one case of voter fraud. Find me
a bunch.
I don't know, 30,000 more in Michigan.
That's fair.
What's the difference?
Yeah,
2,791,000 versus 2,646,000.
And this is an issue, and I think that and it's not just a Republican thing, because if you look back at Democrats, I mean, you look at Jerry Nadler, and he said this himself. You can pull up the clip. I mean, people were sharing that around too. That in some of these scenarios where paper ballots are involved, and there's movement in the ballot, so like a high propensity of the mail system, things like that, especially when they're making changes in the 11th hour, as Pennsylvania did, to the voting standards and how they're going to process these outside of what the legislature allowed and even voted on, right? There's a higher propensity of fraud possibilities, and even our I think it was the FBI, or I think it was the FBI had come out and said that obviously that there is a high propensity of possibility for voter fraud with mail-in issues than there would be in person issues, just because IDs are required. In most places, obviously, some places you hear. Obviously, I don't know how someone votes in person if they're dead, so I don't know how that ID scenario worked there. I don't understand that at all.
It could be the only thing that I could think of is like a stolen identity issue, or it's a checkbox of mail in or in person, and it just whoever's doing it didn't really care about if it was in person or mail. They're just putting the votes in. That could be. I mean, it could be, but and whether you agree with this guy or not, James O'Keefe Project Veritas has put out videos where talking to people that have been verified as USPS officials or employees that talk about the fact that there was fraud in their area. Now, that's not necessarily saying it's widespread, but
right. And that's the conversation is something happening at the margins, or is it truly
an issue?
Where we have I'm not going to have a concern. I guess my personal look at it is I'm not going to have a concern if there's a race. If there's more than 5,000 votes, 10,000 votes that are the difference, I'm not concerned.
Okay.
If it's tighter than that, then okay, let's really look. And the recount in Wisconsin last time was, like I said, is 200 votes.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have a pretty clear decision. Right now, as in Nevada, the margin is 11,000 votes and change. 11,438. Yep. They've got to do a better job of getting people to vote for them, right?
Sure.
11,000. Got to flip it back here. 11,042 people in the state of Nevada voted for none of the above. They literally went in and marked the box that says none of the above.
Said nobody. Yeah.
They said, I don't like any of these. And that includes Joe Jorgensen and everybody else that was on the ballot in Nevada. Because in Nevada, every single time, you can always vote for none of these people. That's their right. It's on there. And that's their way of rejecting somebody. So Trump is down by none of these candidates.
Is the difference. Yeah, it's true.
Within 400. And another 11,000 chose George Jorgensen, and another 2,500 chose Don Blankenship of the Constitution Party. And I'm sure there's probably some write-ins as well, or undervotes. Just get more people to like you.
Let me ask you this: and what's your guys' opinion on this? I think it was. I could be wrong. I think it's Pennsylvania as well that is now this year, and it could be different. It could be Michigan. It's one of those two, I believe, that had taken away the requirement for our signature match on their ballot versus what they have from the registration. Now, I think I have to check. Maybe Chris can find that. I don't remember, but it was either one or the other that was a new thing as well, that they had actually removed some of those before. You obviously had to match what's on the mail-in ballot with what they had on the system for your signature. They took a lot of that away as well. Not everywhere, so I'm not going to try to spread that it was everywhere. But I think it was one state. It was a pretty significant state. It was either Michigan or Pennsylvania, I believe. They had removed that.
Things about
it's Pennsylvania.
Our voting system, what makes it so difficult to hijack is because there are so many different systems. County to county, it's different in Indiana.
Right.
In the state of Pennsylvania, I'm sure it's different county to county.
It's what makes it a very good system.
Ballots look different, so you can't just go, I'm going to steal these votes, because if I went to where you vote in Wayne County versus where I live in Henry County, the machines are different, the experience is different. Right. You're still accomplishing the same thing.
Right.
And if I was a Henry County voter and I voted by mail as a mail-in absentee ballot, those look different than the ballot that I print out in person at my polling place.
There's no doubt about that. I would say, though, that you do have to look at these larger cities where the vote count per square mile is significantly higher than anywhere else. I mean, if you don't need to, and this is just a hypothetical. This is not me saying this happened. If you're going to commit voter fraud, you don't need to do voter fraud in every county. That's just not necessary. You would look at the counties that give you the most bang for your buck, and that would be where you would target if that was something you were going to be able to do. I'm not saying that happened, but so the places they're worried about are the places also that they're getting the Trump campaign.
So do you think there are fictitious people that they've registered fictitious people, or they disenfranchise somebody who tried to show up and they didn't get to vote? Because it's one or the other. Because you got to be so damn specific that, hey, I don't think Dakota's going to show up, so I'm going to go steal his ballot or his opportunity to vote. And then Dakota never mentions it, never complains, and never shows up to vote.
Well, the issue was, and you're right, I think the biggest area that they left themselves open for was the fact that in some areas, every person in the voter registration law got mailed a ballot. That's a lot of ballots hitting the streets that wouldn't necessarily be requested. A lot of states did request, like if you request your ballot, you get your mail-in ballot and you submit that. There were areas that did not do that. Instead,
everybody that was registered automatically got a ballot.
And there were some locations, some properties that got a ballot, and they got 5, 6, 7 ballots for every person that had ever lived at that residence in the last like however many years it was. The problem is that you take something like that, which seems like that's a margin issue, right? But if you take that over an entirety of an area, especially a populous area, and that happens, we're talking thousands of votes. Now, I'm not saying all those are fraudulent, but we have to do a better job in some of our more populous areas, and I say nationally, of setting ourselves up in a position that those questions aren't there. And if secondarily, if in this election, right, it's already super contested, why, if either side is going to try to convince the other that this is a legitimate election with legitimate votes, less transparency is not wise, because it's going to automatically create. Yeah, it's just going to automatically say, "Oh, this is a bigger problem." Obviously, if you're not letting me see something, then it has, like you said before, it has to be a problem. I'm not saying there is a problem, but what I'm saying is that there has to be the ability for everybody to have equal access to those votes. As far as not everybody, but both sides, and that's the big problem in Pennsylvania. That's why the stopping the vote has been requested, at least from everything I'm reading from the Trump campaign, that the press releases they're putting out. Obviously, Trump is not going to say all of that in a tweet. He just says stop the vote, right?
All right. So he says stop the vote in Pennsylvania. Yep. You give him Pennsylvania. He wins that. He holds on to North Carolina.
Right.
And by some miracle, he hangs on to Georgia.
Right.
Which state's he going to win? Nevada or Arizona?
Arizona, easily, comparatively. I mean, it's a much easier path to victory in Arizona than it is, for sure, more than Nevada. I mean, yeah, it's possibly, or it depends on how you say Nevada, I don't know. But change it up. But yeah, he's definitely got a better path in Arizona.
The people in Nevada say Nevada, so I say Nevada.
Nevada, perfect. I'm going to go with that then. But yeah, it's a much easier path, I think, in Arizona. That's not just this year. That's every year for Republicans. That's an easier grab usually. I think that
now Mark Kelly, the astronaut, Gabby Gifford's husband, just won the Senate seat.
He did, yeah.
Defeated Martha McSally.
Yeah.
So you're counting on his voters,
sure,
becoming Trump voters.
But what's weird is, in states that they're voted significantly for Joe Biden, you have seen House seats picked up by Republicans and vice versa. So this is a different election for that reason, that we're seeing that the oddities of people picking up votes where they never thought it would happen. I think that Arizona is very winnable. It is odd to me that it's taken 48 hours to count election day votes. That's usually not the case. Usually it's mail-in, absentee, those sort of oddities that are a lot longer to count. I'm not sure what is delaying them, because they now said they're not going to give us any more updates till tomorrow. Will be 3 days from Election Day. There's no reason they couldn't have counted Election Day votes by now. Now, we'll say as well that one thing that they are having an issue with, and that's being addressed on the ground, there is this issue of the Sharpie, whether they use a Sharpie or a pen. I don't know if you guys have heard much about that.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, the clerks have said that you can mark it either way and it's going to work.
Yeah, well, they could be, and that's what they're talking about. But I have read as well that they're talking about possibly having to go back and recount some of those, because they said they had a high propensity in some areas of randomly ballots getting rejected by the counting machine, which they go back and look at those anyway. But they're going to go back through and look at those and see what's the phrase?
But it would be a way that you could explain why it's taken so long.
Correct. I mean, yeah, true. I mean, but they hand count votes in a lot of places. I don't know. It just seemed like that is a little bit of an exorbitantly long place for Arizona and Florida, which is a much more of a beast, is counted.
Florida's been triggered before.
That's true.
They've
had their moments, the hanging Chad moment. Yeah.
To transition the conversation towards the future, the 2024 election.
Yeah.
My biggest worry with all of the conversation, and I'm kind of Jeremiah, you're much more like in line with Chris Spangle, and thinking that there's got to be a reasonable explanation for all of these anomalies. And there might
be, yeah.
I'm kind of like, well, some of this stuff is weird, but I don't know.
Sure.
But my biggest concern with the conversation that we're having is that this opens the door to some kind of federal regulation of voting nationwide, where I think that the best system of checks and balances that we have to protect against voter fraud is the fact that
the decentralized system that we have.
Yeah, is the fact that it's a county by county basis all across the nation.
Sure, and I don't disagree with that.
Now, and maybe some regulation around transparency on election day, that would be acceptable in my mind. But
and two, I mean, a lot of this goes through the legislature for states, right? The states get to talk about what they're going to do as far as the way they're going to handle votes, and they agree on that, and that's generally how it's handled. That's where some odd situations are happening with respect to Pennsylvania specifically. I know we keep going back to that, but the Supreme Court literally within...
I've said you're going to win Pennsylvania.
I'm
worried about Arizona for you now.
Yeah,
and Georgia. Georgia's the one that everybody's had counted crazy. On that is down to 3,000 votes.
And I wonder what percentage is left. It can't be much. It was down to I think 2% before, so it's probably got to be 1% or so left. But I don't know how many votes that is.
We'll check that real quick, and then
They did say though. I just read something before I came on tonight that they said that they, the Secretary of State, I think it was, it said they had found
99% reported.
They had found X amount of vote, not found like. Oh, they opened a trunk and found them. I'm not saying that.
Darren Jacobs just dropped off 9,000 more votes.
Beautiful. Yeah, they did. Well, what they realized was there was more votes they had to count than what they thought, which I don't know how. I mean, I'm not sure how that works. If you just
it's another wagon sitting over there, man.
Well, yeah, probably, but I don't. That's odd that they would say, oh, by the way, now we had this number. We said we told you X amount we had left to count. Now there's I think it was like 23,000 more.
I saw that.
Those are weird. I don't know why how that happens.
So populations shift all the time.
Sure.
And something I've been watching as our election results have come in here, right. If you look at the number of votes cast, this is what got me started on this conversation. In each congressional district,
right?
Wild differences between where we're at in the 6th district, our district here, versus the 4th district and the 5th district. So as the donut counties around Indianapolis have been growing, the number of votes that we've been casting have been just dropping like a rock around here. And I know everything wasn't in when I pulled these, but the 6th district, our home district, about 269,000 votes have been cast as of yesterday morning. They had counted 358,000 in the 5th district. So we're 80,000 votes behind. And that's not just population, that's votes.
Total votes. That's
total votes counted, or cast. Counted or cast in that race.
What they know is coming. Yeah,
right. About 80,000 behind. About 350,000 in the 9th. Every one of these should be about the same. Basically, what they do is they say a congressional district. They take the state of Indiana, divide it up into 9 districts, and you have about the same number of voters. The 4th district, which is Jim Baird's district, the west side of Indianapolis, so Brownsburg, Hendricks County, all of those, 335,000. So we are at the end of our maps. They're going to get redrawn in 2022, which is another reason why these elections are so important, because the folks that control the legislatures, the state houses, are the ones that are going to draw the next maps.
Right.
So this is the last cycle for the presidency that the electoral map looks like it does now.
Right.
In 2024, it's going to be different. Indiana looks like it's still going to have 9 votes based on the population estimates that we had. We don't have the official census yet, but we have last summer's estimates. So Indiana's probably going to stay the same, but our districts are going to get redrawn.
Okay.
So right now we're in a 19-county district. I'm going to say that we're likely going to end up picking up some of the geography of that 5th district that's got so many more people. So Anderson's probably going to be a part of our area, maybe Marion, maybe Blackford County, Jay County. all of that's going to grow, and we're going to have an even more diverse geographic area. And that 5th district is going to get smaller and tighter
because it's more dense.
You got more population growth. What's really going to be interesting is looking into the next cycle. The states that are growing in this projection here, Texas is supposed to get 3 new seats, which means 3 new seats in Congress,
right?
Which means they will get 3 more electoral votes. Florida is looking at picking up 2 or 3.
I think it's 3.
It looks like 2 according to this.
This
chart
is
here.
on 270.
270 to win has this, and I've got it I'll have it in the show notes for folks. And then Alabama is going to lose a seat. New York, Pennsylvania, with Minnesota, Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, and for the first time ever, California would lose a seat, and so will Rhode Island. Picking up, in addition to the ones that we said would pick up 1 or 2, North Carolina would pick one up. Colorado, Arizona is going to get another seat.
Oregon, I think.
Oregon and Montana. So Montana will be more politically powerful
than ever before
than Rhode Island. Rhode Island's going to go down to the bare minimum of 3. They're going to lose their other congressional seat, and Montana would have 2.
That's surprising.
So, but what that does is that you're seeing a net shift in the states, even now, whether it's the 2016, the 2012, or the 2020 map. If Florida and Texas are red, are Republican, that's the difference right now. If you applied this map with where they think people live and everything the way that they're colored in right now, Trump would have won the Electoral College.
Well, and it tells you for 2024 what's going to look. I mean, that's going to tell us here's the new battlegrounds. I mean, because you look at it, you're right. California is going to lose. I mean, we're not talking huge
First
numbers,
time California's ever lost a vote.
Correct. It's always gone up. So, but Texas is going to become more powerful. Which Texas was the dark horse of this is the year. This is the year that Democrats are going to win Texas, which wasn't the case. But
here's the
it's getting
secret.
closer.
Texas and New York are about the same margin. Guffey threw his arms up in the air.
Sorry, Devontae Adams just scored, and I hit a $130 bet.
Wow, taxes are due, buddy.
Well done.
Working out better for me than eBay.
Fair.
So, yeah, that's the conversation, and that may be one of the reasons why people are so pissed off about the Electoral College, is that they're seeing this or they're reading the room going, their problems are going to be even worse now.
The left's problems. Yeah.
Well, because Trump, if you look at the numbers, he picked up significant gains amongst the Hispanic vote, and just minority vote in general, especially across Florida
men and women.
Miami-Dade. He picked up huge margins.
He lost 5% of the white male vote.
The Rio Grande area, he picked up huge number. I think he won amongst Hispanics, and I think Hillary Clinton had won by like 30, 40%. So that's, which is an odd thing, that, and I think Republicans had to be happy about that. I think going forward is that they are, if things don't change, they're making progress in those areas. Maybe not. Maybe it was just a scenario where, a fluke, but to start doing better in those areas as those areas are also gaining more power politically is pretty wild.
Tom Firkinoff. Are you saying they're adding more counties to the 6th district as he's just tried to run a 19-county race? Yeah, I think you're going to have about 25, Tom.
Beautiful.
It's going to get bigger. They've got to find the people somewhere. They got to make the populations balance.
Probably go up to Fort Wayne.
I think it's going to go all the way to the south side of Fort Wayne. Or they're going to take Indianapolis and blow it apart, and every congressional district is going to have a township or 2 of Indy.
Yeah,
which the last time they drew the maps here, they looked at our state Senate seat, and they almost took it from Irvington to Newcastle and Richmond and followed 40.
Wow.
So Henry County would have been represented by the same person that represented the east side of Indianapolis, because those are common communities.
Yes.
Those are the maps they threw out, and they wound up picking up.
When people talk about east side of Indianapolis, they talk about, that's a lot like Newcastle.
Yeah. I mean, we are the far, far east side of Indianapolis.
True.
We're just 3 exits from 465. That's what I always tell people.
Skipping
when I
a
try
jump
to get
down
them
the
to come
road.
visit
Yeah.
us.
It's funny.
All right, Dakota, what do you think of these maps?
Why are you asking me?
I want to know. I don't know, because this is what we do. We talk about stuff. Why are you asking me? Mind your own business.
Yeah. I don't need to tell you anything.
Get a warrant.
The maps, I hadn't even thought about them until you brought them up, to be honest with you. I didn't even think about them, this being the last year for the congressional districts.
Well, I think we'll have one more cycle with these congressionals. 22 will be when you have the first one.
Yeah.
Or 22 will have those, and then
24 will be the new ones.
Yeah.
To me, the most surprising thing about California is that they're only losing one. Because
their population still grew, just not at the rate. Because what we've done is we've frozen the number of seats in the state in Congress, in the House of Representatives.
Right.
So we basically say, here's the number of seats. Every state gets at least one, and then we divide it up and we apportion them out. So the Big Ten, all of the states up here were in Big Ten country: Minnesota, Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New York. These are all cold areas that are losing. Basically, Kentucky and Indiana and Wisconsin are the only states that are not losing representation.
Yeah, we're saying the same.
We're holding on. But everybody else around us, people are moving south.
True.
And it's Florida and Texas.
They're not moving to Alabama.
No,
apparently.
Of course not.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be in Gulf Shores. So Birmingham. Heck no. Although they have a great IndyCar race.
There you go.
I want to go see Barber.
And I'm assuming based on what we're seeing, because you look at that, obviously Colorado's been red, but other than that, and Oregon, those are generally all Republican states. As far as what they normally win.
They're either Republican states or states that you would expect them to play very well.
Correct. Yes.
Right.
Right.
Arizona's one that you don't.
Well, before now, you would have thought there was no chance. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was very surprised whenever I woke up.
And I still think that it's going to go red at the end of the day, to be honest.
Well, I mean, you're hoping.
I am.
So President-elect Biden, he'll be the oldest president ever. Let's wrap up on that.
Ah, beautiful.
77 years old.
That's one of the reasons I wanted to vote for Kanye. I'm tired of
Kanye's going to be there a while.
I'm tired of the old people. We need someone young with energy.
But it doesn't have to be young. Maybe it's not 77, right? It doesn't have to be that young.
Yeah, you don't have to be young.
Well, because, it can't be young. Can't be. Legally,
35 is pretty young.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm not 35 yet.
Jeremiah's old.
Jeremiah's well past 35.
37.
He'll be 37. Yeah.
37.
Jeremiah 2024.
I'll tell you what, I'm still hanging on to hope of them doing the People Under 40 magazine edition.
You're in it.
And I've still got a shot.
The cover.
But,
I want the cover.
I've only got a couple of editions left, and then I'm over. It's
gone.
Done.
Yeah.
I've only got a couple more opportunities.
If there's a voting system, let me know. I'll make sure we can get some.
I'll be competing against you.
Well, yeah.
Noted businessman over there.
Does anybody know how the Unity 2020 did? How close were we to having Dan Crenshaw as president?
Not that close.
Was he on the ballot anywhere?
No, I don't think so.
He won re-election to his state house seat.
He did.
Colts wide receiver Anthony Gonzalez won re-election in Ohio, so he's going to go back for a second term.
Tony,
that's a thing. I would vote. My other wild prediction in Congress is that Victoria Spartz becomes the AOC for as much of a boogeyman as AOC is for the left
on the right.
On the right,
could be.
It's going to be the exact opposite, and they're going to hate Spartz. They're going to use money. They're going to raise money against her.
I can see that.
Yeah.
That's my one exciting.
It hasn't done them any good to raise money. I mean, look at the places they spent the biggest amount of money. Susan Collins win. They spent down in Lindsey Graham win. I mean, where they put millions and millions of dollars, they lost. That has to be. I mean, if nothing else, that has to be the most devastating. They thought they had Susan Collins unseated.
I think that
the polls said it, but that's not the reality. Well, she won by what 20 points, I think, something like that.
Temporarily unavailable. They're trying to suppress information.
I want Dakota to see this.
When are we?
Read this one real quick. We'll finish up. This is my other random one. Arkansas U.S. Senate.
Yeah, Arkansas U.S. Senate. You pull it up, and it's just straight up a whole entire red map. And Tom Cotton, Republican Party, won 66.7%. And Ricky Harrington, the Libertarian Party candidate, won 33.3%.
He won counties.
Hey,
won counties in a statewide race.
That's interesting. I'm 100% for down. I mean, is Arkansas I'm assuming they're not a.
They are not a straight ticket voting state.
I didn't figure so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's.
I don't know why. I don't know why anyone is at this point. To be honest with you.
Well, if you listen,
I know why they are.
If you listen to State Representative Jim Lucas in Seymour, Indiana, he says that because if you take away straight ticket voting, you're taking away freedoms for people to have an easier vote.
Straight ticket voting is left over from the party bosses' machines,
right,
back in the day, where where you got somebody to check one box and you go buy him a beer.
You can walk in,
And
you walk
also
in, check your name, check your box, sign, put your X down, and walk out,
Also,
and I'll give
didn't
you.
even have to read. You just knew
No.
that you were team.
I need you to box.
At least
check-
make it last.
Mark-
like you know what I'm saying. At least make it the last one. You get to scroll through all of them.
Mark box 14 for our
Right.
guy. That's it.
It's I mean, I'm a Republican. I think it's ridiculous.
Got to go.
I've
Gotta
never
go.
voted straight Republican.
All right, we'll start wrapping up here. Producer Chris, you got anything for me?
I'm very excited just hit that bet. I've been on a slump lately, so it's great to get that back in.
Now you can buy 3 new TVs for your man cave.
Now you're only down by $200.
Hold on.
What color are you painting your man cave?
I think it's just going to be like a steely gray.
So Paige picked out the color?
No, I just actually like that color. I wish I would have bought my Tacoma in that like cement gray.
So Paige picked out the
Concrete
color.
gray.
She
No.
told you that you could choose from these 4 different shades of gray.
No.
So it's going to be gray with pink accents?
One thing,
It's okay, Chris. All of us in here are married. We know how it is.
listen, I have an axe to grind. I have an axe to grind with Walmart. Listen,
Oh wow.
listen, this is why. Black Friday
Boy,
deals.
I thought we didn't have boomers on this show, but here we are.
Here we
China
are.
Mart.
Listen, the reason I have an issue, Black Friday sales, November 4th at 7 o'clock, they went live. There was a 65-inch TV for $228. I was allowed to purchase this for my den. I was allowed. And guess what? $659. I'm refresh.
Gotta be quicker than that.
I put it in my checkout at 7 o'clock and went to checkout. Out of stock. Fuck you, Walmart. Fuck you.
Oh, wow.
That is strong words.
Very,
Okay.
very aggressive.
Yeah, I think they only had like two of them, and they're like,
They only have to have one.
the bait and
Right.
switch, baby, the bait and switch.
Well,
they
sorry,
got me.
TV,
Maybe if you had real internet, you
like
would
the
have
past
gotten
3
it.
years.
Hey, but
I've
think
got-
about
I was
this
at
way.
Pages. She has internet.
Are you more mad that you lost it online, or would you be more mad if you'd gotten there? There was 3 of them, and you were 4th in line.
I would have
That's
gotten
the
one,
real
Brad.
I went one time to get one. It was supposed to get
Busted
a 50
kneecaps.
50-inch. Missed out on it, so I bought the 60-inch.
See,
Honestly,
that's
some
an
things just work out, guys.
Mine did not.
Right?
Mine did
Oh,
not.
sorry about that.
Any other gripes, Chris? Do we need to start saving some boxes for you? You ready to move?
Nope. Yep. We're ready to move. So we think they're going to stay in the house till after Thanksgiving.
Listen to all this we talk.
We
We believe.
And you're moving in with each other, premarital.
Yep.
That's
Separate bedrooms, I'm sure.
Yeah. Separate bedrooms, of course.
it's like I Love Lucy.
But no, I will say that I am entirely happy with John Kindred and his dad.
Mike
Doug.
Guffey says he got one of those TVs.
First, Mike,
Beautiful.
First, Mike, you have to have my last name, and you run it into the ground, but you run on the R ticket, and you get elected. And now you steal my TV. What's up, Mike? I know where you live.
Awful threatening over
But
there.
anyways, no,
Man,
seriously,
he is fired up.
He is amped.
I am angry about that TV. Anyways, no, seriously, I am happy with John Kindred. I'm happy with Doug Kindred and Brian Huff,
I'm glad you're happy about something.
the mortgage. I would say I'm happy
Beautiful.
with PCCU.
Did you even talk to
but
PCCU about your mortgage? Did you give them a chance?
Nope.
How dare you?
Nope.
You're dead to me. That's all. I'm just kidding.
There'll be a cashier's check for your savings. You're out. You're gonna call your notes.
Becky's going to do that for me.
I'm gonna have to call him in the morning to get that letter sent out.
Yeah. But no, seriously, and Corey Owens Home Inspections. If you ever have any problems or you need something done, call them up. Call either one of those guys.
Happy with your team.
Yeah, I am absolutely.
Mike Guffey says, "Come on by." Brad, thanks for joining us, man.
Happy to be here.
Short notice. This was fun.
I'm glad Noah was your first choice. Perfect.
Yep, it's
Beautiful.
Listen, honestly, you got like an extra hour and a half's notice than what Dakota's been giving other people. So
There you go.
you're doing great.
I was ready to prepare.
You've been preparing all weekend. Anyway.
Yeah, it was already. I had to whittle down what I like. Otherwise, it would have just been word vomit for an hour and a half. So
Very good. How people follow you, where they read your stuff, all that,
sure,
all that fun.
all of it is like I say. It's all the starting point. Real Brad Brewer on every social. You can find me there. Start from there, and you can see pretty much what I'm posting and what I'm writing.
Every social.
Every social is
LinkedIn?
Real Brad Brewer. No, not LinkedIn. Yeah. Oh, I guess
TikTok?
I should. TikTok,
Real Brad Brewer on the
Instagram,
Instagram,
Twitter,
Kick,
all of them.
OnlyFans,
Yeah.
all of them.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have a TikTok?
I do. I have about 22,000 people that follow me on TikTok, sir. I am in the creator fund, I think. I don't know if I actually am in there or not.
You're a Trump guy.
Listen, it's big. on TikTok. Needless to say, actually, oddly enough, it is. I won't post one video. 3 million people watched that video. 3 million. That's a lot of folks.
Were you twerking?
I was not twerking. I wasn't even in the video. It was. If I was, I wouldn't have got 3 million views. I can tell you that for sure. So,
Dakota, what do you know?
Not a whole lot. I don't know much. I want to give a shout out to Oakley Brothers Distillery in Anderson because they had fantastic pizza. I'm just excited that we have a whiskey distillery so close to my house.
Is their whiskey in their barrels already? It's not, hey, we've made some hooch that we put in a barrel, and in like 4 years we'll have something worthwhile.
I got a bottle of it right here.
It's theirs.
Not only do they just distill whiskey, this is their Rymea River rye whiskey, and all of their spirits that they have there on the menu, and every cocktail that you get is distilled by them in Anderson. So a margarita,
all local.
A margarita, their tequila they make, gin and tonic.
So it's a 100 proof, 375 milliliter bottle. Mm-hmm. This bottle looks like an old medicine bottle. It's really cool.
It's a tiny bottle.
Yeah, I like the. It looks like the old pharmacy.
It's a cool
stuff.
place. We got a pizza last night, and it was. It had a pepper medley, pulled pork, sausage, pepperoni, and then was drizzled with honey.
Okay.
It was wild. It was really
I'd try
good.
that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Delicious.
All right. That's enough of this. We appreciate it very much. Next week, we're going to be back with the, once again, the Courier Times did a big article on our crew. It's going to be myself, Dakota, producer Chris, Corey Murphy. I don't know if Zach Bergstrom's going to show up. He can if he wants to, but he doesn't have to. Who else? Darren Jacobs, Aaron Dickin, Clay Morgan, the newly reelected. It's going to be quite the crew. We'll find a place for everybody, and we're going to have a great time. We'll see you all next Thursday.
Thank you for listening to the Boss Hog of Liberty, which is part of the We Are Libertarians Network. I am Chris Spangle, and I am the founder of this network, and I invite you to listen to all of our shows, which you can find at wearelibertarians.com or by searching for these in your podcatcher. The flagship show is the We Are Libertarians podcast, where we apply libertarian principles to current events. The Brian Nichols Show is a conversation amongst Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Independents, as they talk about what is happening in the news. And we have many other podcasts like The Chris Spangle Show, Upward, The Cost, Raw Audio Politics, Miranda's World, and Tad Talk, which is quite a ride. So check all of these out. Go to wearelibertarians.com and you can check out all of our great podcasts. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Get our other shows at wearelibertarians.com.